Okay. We apologize for the delayed start, but I'm excited to join all of you this evening, and thank you for carving out time to join us. You know, one of the things that we found to be very beneficial to our work, not just at the district office, but also at the board level, are these town hall meetings, which we began last year. We felt that it would give us an opportunity to hear from you, some of the things we're doing well, some of the things that we could do better, and add voice to what we're doing. Okay, so bear with us this evening. And again, thank you for joining us. It's hard to believe that we are almost at the end of this calendar year, you know, and I know it's respiratory season, but ideally we would do this in person. But we're trying to err on the side of caution. As we sent out this invitation, we had over 150 people register, and we're anticipating somewhere right around 100 who will join us for this. Rest assured, we are looking to make this interactive. Okay. And, you know, in a few moments here, I'm going to go through the format for the evening. Before I do that, I just would like to ask my panelists to just maybe unmute yourself and introduce yourself and your position at the district office. And then we'll jump into the evening. So I see my tile here. I'm going to start with Dr. Gaeta.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Linda Gaeta. I'm the assistant superintendent, and the office that I work with predominantly is the teaching and learning department.
Very good. Thank you, Dr. Gaeta. Ms. Mangini?
Yes, good evening, everyone. My name is Pamela Mangini. I'm the district's chief operating officer, and my office oversees the financial and operational areas of the school district, including the budget, the business office, food services, registration, and transportation.
Excellent. Mrs. Borges?
Hi, everybody. I am Heather Borges. I'm the Director of Pupil Services, and my office does exactly what that title says. We oversee the student services for the district, special education services, some social and emotional learning, anything that falls within that umbrella.
Very good. Mrs. Brown?
Good evening. My name is Courtney Brown, and I am the Director of Human Resources, and we take care of certified staff, non-certified staff, and substitutes.
Excellent. Dr. Daniels?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Fallon Daniels. I'm the Director of School Leadership and Accountability. My role is to support with the teaching and learning work by working directly with principals and also collecting meaningful data to support instruction.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Mrs. Temple?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Yvonne Temple. I am the Supervisor of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Engagement. And I work closely with everyone here to ensure that we're creating equitable practices for all our stakeholders. So that includes students, our teaching and administrative staff, every single staff member in our district. So that's what I do. Thank you.
Excellent. Mr. Ruggiero?
Good evening, everyone. Rich Ruggiero, Facilities Director. Our team, custodians, take care of all our schools. We work hand in hand with the town, teachers, principals, to make everything as safe and clean as we can for everyone.
Excellent. And the man who just saved the day for me, Mr. Rivers.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Matthew Rivers. I am the Director of Technology for Stratford Public Schools. As that title states, we are in charge of any technology that any students, staff members, anyone that walks into our buildings, we make sure everything is running as smoothly as possible.
All right, thank you. And the person who saves the day for me most days of the week, Ms. Lakutis.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Teresa Lakutis. I'm the executive assistant for Dr. of Sunday. And in addition, I work closely with this whole team and with everyone in the district-wide. Pleasure to be here and welcome.
All right, thank you. So just to maybe kind of preface what the format will be, Mr. Rivers, if you can potentially go to the next slide. What I will do is take a few moments to maybe give a quick overview of the school year to date. Again, as I said, it's hard to believe that we're near the end of the calendar year. Things have moved pretty fast. So I'll give our participants a quick oversight or overview and some of the highlights we've had this year. After I'm done with that, and anticipate that'll take about 6 or 7 minutes, what we'll do is all the people who just introduced themselves, all of our panelists, will give you a brief overview of some of the highlights that has happened under their departments, maybe highlight some of the challenges and some of the things that they're working on, some of the exciting things, and some of the things we're hoping to not just accomplish in this first semester, but certainly through the year. After they give that brief highlight, we will open up the floor for Q&A. Again, the aim for us with this process is to make sure that it's interactive. I'll talk a little bit more about things in terms of why we value this piece of the interaction and hearing your voice so much. I'll speak a little bit more about that later. After we go through the panelists and they give that overview of their department's work, we will discuss briefly our budget process. We are knee-deep in budget season at this point in time, and this is going to span for the next 4.5 to maybe even 5 months. But one of the things that we do know we value incredibly is your contributions and your insights on what you deem to be important that will not only inform my thinking, but also the 7 members of the Board of Education as we engage in this work. Give me a thumbs up if I'm still audible for my panelists. Excellent. Okay. And then what we'll do is we'll just open up the floor, okay, for discussions and conversations. I do want to say that, since we began this work, one of the things that we have done, we've been very deliberate about when we engage in these kinds of forums or these kind of environments where we have a town hall and we're trying to solicit input and insight. We're very intentional to make sure that, for lack of a better word, that it doesn't turn into a complaint session, okay? This has been an ethos we have adopted as a district. Our principals would tell you this, our teachers would tell you this, and even when people come to me, they come to me with a similar approach, and this is also something that's championed by our Board of Education, is that if there is a challenge or a problem that you want to vent about, okay, we don't use the word complain here, equally come to that conversation with an idea or solution, a proposed solution, okay? We work incredibly hard, but we know that we don't have all the answers, and oftentimes, based on some of your feedback or your insight, you might help us close a blind spot. If we're able to do it from an implementation standpoint, we certainly would do those things. And if we can't, then we'll be honest with you and we won't do those things. So we'll have a round table where we'll be able to hear from you around anything that touches on any aspect in any sector of our academic institution that we call the Stratford Public Schools. All right, so that is the format. So why don't I just go ahead and jump into the school year to date, okay? It's been an exciting year. It's been a challenging year, probably not as challenging as previous years for obvious reasons. And I do have to give credit to so much of our professional community and certainly to you all as family members, okay? People have been working incredibly hard, and I'm talking about from the Board of Education members all the way to the person who just signed on to join our professional staff this week, okay? And as we continue to think about the year, and I share this with the Board of Education, our primary challenge this year, and our teachers will tell you this, our administrators will tell you this, has been staffing shortages, okay? That's been the primary challenge. I know we've probably talked about it quite extensively, and it's not any different for other districts across the state and across the country, but it impacts the work that we do on a daily basis, okay? If we are able to firmly get our thumb on some of the staffing challenges, we feel very confident as an academic institution that we'd be having a pretty quality year, okay? So we'll continue to talk and figure out the best ways to make sure that when people are absent, whether it's because of the flu, COVID, or what have you, RSV is out there as well, that we bring people in who can continue to support the development of our children, okay? As a cheap plug, for those of you who are on this call, okay, if you have friends, network members, people who can support our work and who want to substitute please tell them to reach out to us, reach out to the Human Resources Department, and let's see if we can get them to join our community. But the caveat is that they have to be student-centered and they have to care about the work that we are doing, okay? So again, as I shared, we're having a pretty quality year, and all things that we do, we continue to examine how we can continue to get better. And that's probably the impetus for why we're having this conversation here. We want to hear from you. We live this on a daily basis, and you might watch it from a distance or you interact on a regular basis, and there's some ideas that you may have that can help inform our work. So we do want to make this interactive. The quality year, I do want to say, is an exclusive credit to our Board of Education and our community, okay, largely for setting direction. And let me explain what that means, okay? Dating back to last spring, okay, as we started to get into the back end of the academic year, one of the things that we felt was important, particularly with the change in leadership, was to have a new plan moving forward, okay? We worked comprehensively to design a plan that we were firmly committed to has to be driven by diverse voices, okay? I have to give an incredible amount of credit to the people who participated in our process, where we constructed a new strategic plan that's going to carry us in an agile way through the next 3 years. We were quite deliberate and intentional about reaching out to a cohort of people to join the conversation. And just to give you a quick understanding of the profile of the people who were part of this process, for obvious reasons, we included our teachers, our certified teachers. We included at every level, at the elementary level, at the middle school level, at the high school level, our administrators as well. Board members were participants, active participants. We had parents join the conversations. We had community partners join the conversations. All in all, we extended an invitation to, I believe, about 53 people from the community of Stratford. We had quite consistent participation, and averaged about 39 people over the course of the near 3 months. The outcome of that, okay, was, in my opinion, what's allowing us to have a quality year. I think we're all moving in the same direction, and this direction was set by that group. That's a representative sample of the community of Stratford, okay? The outcome of that was a new vision, a new mission, and strategic priorities that we work on every day across this organization. Mr. Rivers, if you can potentially go to the next slide, I kind of want to highlight the vision that was adopted through consensus, okay? A few years back, the district began work on constructing what they would adopt as the profile of the graduate of the Stratford Public Schools. And these are the attributes, skills, and dispositions that were selected to represent the graduate of the Stratford Public Schools. The premise behind this, okay, and I'm going to ask you all to maybe take a look, read it. But the premise behind this is that as a community and as an academic institution, we felt strongly that as students travel through our schools, pre-K through 12, right, through climate and culture, certainly through academics, by the time they walk off our stages at Bunnell and Stratford High School, should they have mastered these dispositions and competencies, we appropriately position them for post-secondary success anywhere, whether they choose to go to college, community college. If they choose not to go to community college, they choose to enter the workforce, the trades, or if they choose to commit to military service. It's comprehensive. This is who we are. This is unique to our DNA as a community because it was constructed through the voices of our families, our teachers, and community partners and community leaders. So it came as easy consensus that it made sense to us that the portrait of a graduate, the final destination of what it means after a child travels through our schools, becomes our vision, okay? We paired that with a mission. And the mission, next slide, please, is an ethos or a train of thinking that governs our day-to-day operations, the way we work, the way we welcome kids into our schools, right? And the way they experience school. So the mission is a short statement. I do feel that this is cleaned up, okay? And I will tell you, as participants, as we went through this over those 3.5 months, members of the Strategic Planning Committee had spirited discussion and debates literally about every word in that sentence, right? Ultimately, this was the cleanest version of the mission. It's not wordy, but it touches on the whole child. Okay, so again, our mission as we enter our building every day, and it's everybody's responsibility. It's not just the responsibility of teachers, administrators, it's also the responsibility of students, is to support the growth of the whole student through a challenging and inspiring education. Because we believe that if our students are able to grow and develop in an environment of rigor, then once they leave the boundaries of our town, they should be able to engage quite efficiently and quite effectively in what they choose to pursue. We want education to be inspiring. We want it to touch the spirits and souls of our students so they continue to be challenged and curious. And our aim is to make sure that we do those things within a safe environment that values and celebrates the diversity of our student population. And that's our mission. Okay. The next slide, we talk a little bit about, Mr. Rivers, if you can go to the next slide. These are 5 of the buckets that we are going to focus on at the Board of Education in order to, fulfill the vision and certainly meet the mission. We did talk a little bit about actually quite extensively about the whole child. As many of you know, Stratford Public Schools and the Board of Education has invested a lot of time and a lot of resources into social emotional well-being of students, okay? And making sure that kids feel engaged, feel seen, and feel heard when they enter any one of our schools across the community. Heavy focus on meaningful learning, okay? And I'll talk a little bit more about this. This is a segment of the work that I am quite inspired by our schools this specific year. And most specifically because, February of last year, we received news that we were an underperforming district. I have my personal opinion on that designation. But nonetheless, I'm inspired because I saw the amount of energy, focus, and fervor that was put in through the summer into the fall by administrators and school communities to design plans that will be responsive to our improvement needs. So there's a lot of preliminary work happening there, and there's some early signs, some early favorable signs of the work that we're doing. A plan for future success. So it's not just about today, it's to make sure we have a roadmap for all of our children. In order to do those things, we know that all of our improvement efforts are squarely anchored on the capacity that we have as professionals, as a professional community. One of the things that I've been very clear about across the district, at each building level, and even across communities, is that as we continue to engage in the work of adding people to our professional community, these individuals have to be representative of value added. Okay, so when you join the Stratford Public Schools, you're not here just to have a job or just to coast. Okay, you have to make sure that you bring value to the already existing capacities and the work of our professional community. And if you are positioned to, challenge us to grow. Okay, challenge us to grow, and we'll certainly do the same thing for you. So more work to do there. And then obviously this, to me, this is the foundation of the work, is family and community partnership. This is an unshakable commitment. And, in all of my travels in this work across the state of Connecticut, I'm seeing how deeply rooted our families are in our schools. And that's a tremendous asset. So much so of an asset that at the Board of Education level, okay, they were quite explicit about adopting this piece as part of the goals. And I would say without reservation that the Board of Education, all 7 of them, listen to every word you say. Okay, because ultimately it comes to me, and they value your voice in what we're doing for schools. So We'll talk a little bit more about that. But these were some of the things that, in my opinion, really positioned us to have a pretty quality start to the year. Okay, there's a host of other things that are happening at a latent level, and certainly at the building level. There's tremendous work, leadership, instruction, but we're also knowledgeable to know that we have some more work to do. Okay, so Mr. Rivers, I don't think I have another slide before I continue to go through the rest of the year. Slide over. Give me one more slide. Okay, go back. We're going to come back to this. You can probably take the presentation off, and we'll come back to that last budget slide at a later time. Okay, so I just gave you an overview of some of the things that positioned us to have a quality start. Beyond the strategic plan that we adopted at the board level, we also worked on an alternate project, which was responsive to the improvement needs that were reported to us from the State Department of Education. We crowdsourced ideas around some core research-based improvement anchors to improve the work that we're doing in school and ultimately improve the outcomes, which was our Alliance plan. Myself, Dr. Gaeta, and Dr. Daniels, Von Temple, and the cohort of other district leaders had our first check-in with state liaisons, and we're receiving favorable feedback. And I do know that at every building level, people are moving at a fast pace around this work. Okay, if you've been around faculty and staff at Stratford Public Schools, and certainly at each individual schools, they have a personality, and part of that personality is pride in their work. Okay, so they're working hard. There's some level of excitement, but there's certainly some challenges along the way. I do recognize that we are blessed that even with the challenges, people are being resilient and they're out of the box thinkers as we continue to engage in this work. I made a reference earlier about Board of Education goals. Okay, I've been fortunate to see the evolution of our Board of Education. And as I continue to have conversations with them individually on a daily basis, or whenever we get a chance to connect as a full group, they're committed to community. Okay, they're committed to community. A few years ago, we started having conversations about One Stratford, and we're seeing a lot of this emerge in, I would go as far as saying culture and climate, but in so many other broader ways. Those goals don't change. The community relations are priorities for the board. A focus on fiscal health, making sure that we bring forth a budget that's responsible to the improvement needs of the district, but also conscious of the community's economic needs, are a central focus of this Board of Education. And then obviously the policy work to make sure that academics improve, schools are safe, and all the other operations are core to this work. From a climate and culture, we're having a quality year. Okay, our middle school kids are more active than any other population of kiddos that we have. But I'm a firm believer that when our kids are making good decisions, that we celebrate them and we remind them of that. Okay, that this is the standard and this is the expectation. So we'll continue to work on that. And to our kids, if you happen to be on this call and you're watching with your families, keep leading. Okay, keep leading, keep making good decisions, keep taking care of each other. We have some lofty things we're looking to accomplish here at the Stratford Public Schools. Some of the other things that we did work on is school safety. We have engaged in a comprehensive overhaul of not just the adaptive aspects of school safety, but also the technical aspects of school safety. If you have the opportunity to go back and take a look at our most recent board meeting, Dr. Daniels and Heather Borges made a presentation around our student conduct data. Okay, there's been some growth areas, and as I said, certainly some more opportunities to improve. But when our kids are doing well, we want to remind them that they're doing well. Carlos Castro, our new district safety director, also did a presentation about the technological infrastructure improvements that have been made over the last 4 to 6 months. There's more work to do. Okay, school safety is never-ending work. But at the same time, it's important to reiterate that school safety, and you'll hear it from my office, you'll hear it from our principals, and you'll hear it from the Board of Education. School safety is everybody's responsibility, okay? If you've been part of our community, you've been in our schools, you'll see the tremendous culture and climate pieces that and events that we've engaged in. Veterans Day was just, to me, that's the standard, okay? That's the standard. You know, Bunnell just did a tremendous job. And I heard so many historical stories about the Veterans Day event, and it was true to form, okay? Stratford had almost 80 veterans representing almost every division of service in the military at Bunnell's Auditorium and the auxiliary gym. And it was powerful to hear those remarks from our speakers. It was powerful to watch our kids sit, you know, in silence and completely engaged in the voices and the words of our speakers. That's what it's about. Okay, you couple that with, you know, some of the things that are happening internally in the schools, whether it's the pep rally at Stratford High, or the cultural showcase at Bunnell, or the Thanksgiving Day game. We're showing a tremendous amount of signs of a community that's coming together. Okay, so more work to do there. Your voice and your involvement, your volunteerism is critical to this. Continue to improve the culture and climate, and your communication is essential to that as well. I do want to revisit this. I know it sounds like beating a dead horse, but COVID is still here. Okay, COVID is still here. Okay, we are monitoring it. Even though we are better skilled and better knowledgeable about how to manage it, it is still here. Okay, so be mindful, talk to us, talk to your pediatricians, talk to your doctors. It's respiratory season, so things spread a little bit faster. And there's an implication in attendance. You'll hear a little bit more from my colleagues as we talk about that. I don't want to belabor this, okay? We'll get into the Q&A because I know time is moving pretty quickly. But again, proud of the work that our leaders are doing at the building level through their SIPs that's responsive to some of our growth needs. Proud of the partnerships that we have, okay? At the district level and at the board level, we talk often about how do we keep our kids engaged? How do we keep our kids engaged, even after school hours? And one of the levers that we pull in that direction is certainly leaning on our community partners, okay? Sterling House, on a daily basis, takes almost 100 of our kids, and in the summer, our kids basically live there, okay? Our police department has really a portfolio of programs, including, you know, a Guardian Club or PAL, that are opportunities for our kids to engage in. The YMCA, Stratford Rotary, or in our buildings. And the Stratford Library is also a key partner in our work. I say all of that to close with this, that partnership is what it's about, okay? And the quality year that we're having as a district would not be possible, okay, without your partnership as a parent. Okay, we're not absent of the thought that we have a lot of things to improve on, and we're going to look to hear from you on those things. But we appreciate your partnership, your flexibility, your patience in some ways, and we're looking to continue to have a good year, certainly in the second half of the semester. Okay, so with that, I'm going to pause in my summary. Okay, and the next phase of this town hall is the interactive part. Okay, so what I'm going to do is call on each cabinet member to give a quick overview and maybe extend on some of the things that I touched on. And then what we will do is open up the chat feature where you will be able to type into the chat feature questions that may emerge either in your prior thinking before you join this call, or maybe something that one of our panelists says provokes a thought. So you'll ask those questions. We'll field about 4 or 5 questions per panelist, and then we'll keep it moving, okay? We'll ultimately close with crowdsourcing some of your ideas around what you feel will be important for myself to know as the superintendent of schools and our Board of Education to know around budget for next year. Okay, what's important to you? What do you think we should invest in as we enter our budget season? Okay. All right. Again, thank you so much. I am going to hand this off to Dr. Gator. You're going to lead us off, okay, in the Office of Teaching and Learning. After you do your overview, when you give the prompt that you're ready for questions, Ms. Lykoudis will jump into the chat and she will read the questions, and then you'll be able to respond, or anybody else because we have a cross-functional design. Anybody else who has a way to contribute to that response, feel free. All right? All right, thank you.
Thank you. Well, the work of the Department of Teaching and Learning is multifaceted, and in conjunction with the district's strategic operating plan, it supports Stratford's Portrait of a Graduate, as Dr. Sunday already alluded to. Stratford has received a third bar grant that supports this Portrait of a Graduate work, helping to expand the project in grades K through 12. In order to provide the content and skills that students need to be successful, our resources and curricula need to be in alignment with the knowledge and skills that our students will need for success in the areas that they choose after graduation. And this goal is foundational to our district priorities. So in addition to professional learning and resources provided through the district budget, federal and state grants have allowed us to prioritize targeted interventions for students, staff development, and effective, developmentally appropriate instructional strategies. We're looking deeper into our student performance data and providing more interventions at the individual student level. There's a focused PD on professional development, on coaching cycles to strengthen the instructional practice and support administrators as instructional leaders. Currently, we have a district team engaged in the first state cohort focused on the science of reading. This year, we've also been able to provide support in our kindergarten classrooms by hiring aides through the Alliance Grant, as well as math interventionists at the middle level. Schools are offering after-school enrichment, academic and engagement groups. There is greater emphasis on student and family engagement through outreach and collaboration with our community partners to provide resources to families and students as needed. And I think Dr. Sunday also alluded to that. And lastly, improvement efforts will not have maximum impact if students are not in school. So acknowledging that we have to be sensitive to illness, to the illness that we still have around us. And the past 2 years have been challenging for students, families, and educators. We still continue to look for ways to engage students in their learning. At the elementary level, foundational learning and dispositions will take hold here. So attendance at the elementary level is important to avoid gaps in student learning. At the secondary level, excessive absences can result in loss of credit and jeopardize graduation. We are asking families to partner with us, partner with your child's teacher and principal in supporting academic attendance and student attendance. This will require, obviously, a two-way dialogue about your child and our student. So your suggestions are helpful and allow us to get to know your child better and provide the support that they need. So thank you for being here tonight, and we look forward to hearing from you. So I believe there might even already be a question in the chat.
There is. There's a question that reads, what is the district's homework policy? As an Alliance district, I'm shocked there's very little homework provided to support academic improvements.
Well, I think that obviously homework may vary depending upon the level that the child is in and what's being studied at the time in the child's class. So we do have a homework policy at our district website under the district link. There's a drop-down menu that has policy. It's actually listed under instruction. Policy number 6154, and it's rather detailed. It's a detailed policy. Now, again, I have to stress that depending upon the circumstances, homework may vary from level to level and perhaps even from class to class. And so I think that that's always good for a parent to inquire of a child's teacher. You know, is there something more my child can do to be supportive in that and get that dialogue going? But I do think also as a district and just as a general practice, we always, when there's a concern or a question about a policy or practice, that is something that we want to look at. And so I appreciate your question. And you should know that that's an ongoing conversation. So thank you very much. I don't know if anybody else wants to add.
No, I would just add to that. It's our position that there's a tremendous amount of value in kids engaged in homework to reinforce or strengthen academic skills. If there's anything specific or deliberate that you have, certainly, as I said, or as Dr. Gator said, reach out to your child's teacher, okay, and reach out to your child's administrator. We're here and we're positioned to support the academic learning needs as well as developmental needs of all children in our community.
And there are a couple of other questions. One is from Jenna Gampel. I'm thrilled to hear science of reading training has started. Who is being trained so far, and what is the plan for training all teachers and supporting the teachers in bringing these evidence-based practices into the classroom?
Okay, so we have a team that's been participating in the Science of Reading Masterclass. Our team is hearing from national experts in all of the areas of reading. In addition to the team that attends that session, the work and the information that we learn in those what are called plenary sessions, we come back to the district. The administrators on that team share with administrators at the elementary level in the building. This particular program is a K-3 focus. And in addition to that, we have representation from our reading consultants on that team. We have teachers who work with our multilingual students, our special education students or students with exceptionalities. And we also have classroom teachers involved as well. And when they finish their plenary sessions and come back during our professional learning community time and time when administrators get together and grade level meetings, then that information is shared with individuals throughout the district. We're at the beginning of that session, and the plan is through the course of this year that the information will be shared with teachers and other educators throughout the district.
And from Natalie, what supports do you have in place to assist struggling students in high school?
Well, I think that's a great question. Of course, it depends upon what the challenges are for that child. They really would be child specific and need specific. So generally speaking, when you look at the schedule of the high school student, if a child has specific needs, there may be specific classes that meet the needs for that child. We do have, fortunately, through some funding that we've received, we have, our high schools have been able to hire tutors that work with students. We also are providing, as soon as possible, our after school sessions. What we're working on right now is having teachers and tutors who will be working through afternoon sessions or after school sessions. Some of our students are not available at that time. They're either involved in sports or have other responsibilities. So I think my suggestion here would be, particularly for a child and the student's family, to work with that child's counselor, contact the child's the school counselor, to specifically speak about the struggles. They have a good handle on all of the resources that are available in their building. So I highly encourage you to reach out to that person.
Right. And I think, I was second that, then I would like to go to the next district leader for the purposes of time. Counselor is easily your go-to person. The counselor is uniquely positioned to bring people together to discuss the appropriate supports, but you also have the ability to connect with perhaps the child's, specifically in the area of subject area where the child might be struggling, their department chair. Okay, so the department chair might be able to provide a more customized response to the academic needs of the child, but also your child's assistant principal as well. So you have a team that you have to tap into. You just have to be quite deliberate about making sure you access those resources and initiating the conversation. If your child doesn't do it, then as a parent, we encourage you to do it. Okay, initiate that conversation. We can assure you that our people will be responsive to your communication. But beyond that, we also have a few things from a social emotional standpoint. And as I continue to look at some of the improvement work that we're doing, Dr. Gaeta and the high school team I've been working, and the coordinators as well, I've been working on after school supports for SAT prep and also AP prep. Okay, so those things are forthcoming. Those conversations have been pretty robust and intense this week, with a launch for the SAT sometime after we get back in the New Year's. And then as we get closer to AP test dates, we'll launch that as well. Okay, so some good things happening, and you're doing all the right things by asking those questions right here. We just gave you a small snippet of some of the things that we're doing. Please share those things. I'm sure if you have those questions, your neighbors, your peers have those questions, share those things with them. And when in doubt, always reach out to the school. Okay, and they'll point you in the right direction. I cannot understate the importance of attendance. You'll probably hear that multiple times, okay? Some of our students who are struggling academically are not struggling because they're not smart. They're struggling because attendance has impacted their ability to engage consistently in the subject matter and the content, okay? So please have a belief in the capacities of your children. We believe in them, but we also know that whether it's the flu or COVID, to your point, has disrupted the stability of their attendance. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. All right. At this time, I'm going to call on Ms. Mangini to give a quick overview, and then we'll field some questions, and she'll share with you what her office does.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. As I mentioned earlier, my office oversees budget, the business office, which is payroll, accounts payable, as well as food services and transportation. And one of the areas that I just want to highlight is something going on with food services at the moment. As you may know, the school lunch program is currently operating with SMART funds. It is a Connecticut State Department of Education program, and it does stand for School Meals Assistance Revenue for Transition. And basically what it involved has been a limited amount of money for each school district that decided to participate, so that we would be able to provide free meals to all of our students. We knew right from the beginning that this was just temporary, and we did send out that notification early in the school year. And I know that currently we are trying to communicate with all of our families that we are expecting those funds to be completely exhausted by the end of December. So upon returning to school after holiday break on January 3rd, Tuesday, January 3rd, the district will return to charging full price for all lunch meals and breakfast. So we're really trying to encourage families to submit free and reduced price meal applications, determine if your family is in fact eligible for either free meals or reduced based on income eligibility or categorical areas. And you can request a hard copy of the application from your child's school, or we do have an online application under the food service portion on our district website. And just a reminder that the district is still operating under the Community Eligibility Provision Program at 6 of our elementary schools. So they will continue to offer free meals to all students at those schools for the entire year. And they include Franklin, Lordship, Nichols, Second Hill Lane, Johnson, and Soto. And Dr. Sunday, I don't know if you want me to talk a little bit about fiscal year 24 budget, or if you want to hold on that.
Hold on that, because I'm going to close on that. Okay, so
Sounds good.
I'm going to frame some things, and I want to get participants' ideas, and then you can help me set the framing for that.
Perfect.
Are you ready to field some questions?
Certainly.
Okay. I have one from Sean Jones. In the foreseeable future, will there be budgetary considerations in expanding after-school resources at the elementary level?
We are currently working with our elementary principals using ESSER funds to do just that. And there's been a number of programs that have been implemented and started within the last month. We're hoping to continue that with ESSER funds through next school year. Subsequent to that, we will have to see what our budget allows, but I think we are all in agreement through Dr. Gaeta's office and Dr. Osunde's that we certainly want to promote all opportunities for students to have some engaging opportunities after school, and not always purely academic. We have really opened it up to just opportunities for our students to socialize, have some fun. There's been some great ideas, particularly at the elementary level, with some of the after school enrichment programs that are being offered right now.
And I think that is all I have for Pam.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well done. And again, populate your questions into the chat. Even if they don't get called on at this very moment, we will pull those things because we end up discussing some of those things in our meetings. So,
I did just get one. And why is SODO a part of the free lunch program when it is a paid preschool?
It is not completely paid. It's integrated as well as a readiness program. So under the state, we are able to provide meals for all the students who attend preschool. And again, all of this is so closely regulated by the state of Connecticut and the USDA that we are just following those regulations.
That was a very good question. Very
Absolutely.
technical. Very good. All right, at this time, I'm going
to... you're muted, Dr. Sunday.
Oh, I'm sorry. I clicked that button too fast. Calling Ms. Borges to talk a little bit about pupil services and special education.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to give you a very brief overview. We definitely have started this year with an extremely large challenge. The state rolled out the CT-SED system, which is the new IEP system that is mandated for us to use. And with that rollout came a lot of technical challenges and a lot of training that needed to happen in a very short amount of time. We are very lucky in Stratford. We had 25 of the pupil service staff members volunteer to become trainers, and they have turnkeyed that training to the rest of the pupil service staff. We continue to run into technical difficulties, but with the support of our parents and the understanding of all of you, we have been able to work through many of those problems so that we can ensure that we're giving your children the services they need under their IEP, even if the system we're entering it in might have a few glitches. That being said, we have also added an additional technology piece that has been wonderful. With working with the IT department, we were able to roll out online evaluation. So we are now using an iPad system, which allows for our practitioners to be able to evaluate and run their reports in a more efficient manner. And that has been a beautiful rollout, thankfully, to the IT department. Under the bucket of well-being, a lot of that falls under the pupil service department. You saw a little bit about that in our, that Dr. Sunday presented and early in this presentation. We are continuing with Ruler in our district. We are now in year 3 of Ruler. The focus of year 3 is community partnerships and parent understanding. So a lot of you may have seen little notes coming home in your weekly flyers from your schools. Some of you have been able to participate in parent Ruler nights. You should see, as the year continues, more parent Ruler nights and more information coming home to help parents understand what we're doing with Ruler and how we're progressing. We've also been able to do some professional development for our staff under mindset training, which is a de-escalation training to help us work on student behaviors and help meet our students where they're at so that we can start to decrease those behaviors. And we've increased our capacity to do PMT training as well, physical management training, by adding a couple more PMT trainers to our district. So that kind of falls under that umbrella, along with the opening of another school-based health clinic. So actually next week, it'll be fully open for Soto and Johnson to have a school-based health clinic. That all falls under that well-being umbrella. One of our pupil service goals overall is for our students to be able to participate in extracurricular activities and for us to bolster our community partnerships. Some ways we've done that already this year. I am so happy to announce that our unified sports has more participants than they've ever had in years past. We have so many participants, they were able to make teams at both high schools. We had a brand new team start up at Stratford High School this year, and they were a soccer team. They had 20 peers that supported our students with exceptionalities, and they traveled to 2 big soccer events. It was very exciting. So I'm excited for the future of unified sports and the fact that it's continuing to grow. We have continued our partnership with PAL, with the community garden, and our partnerships with the Stratford Public Library and Stratford Parents Place. And most recently, we're working with the Rotary to set up an opportunity for our students to have lunch with Santa. We have a lot going on with our preschool. We've welcomed 50 new preschool students already as the year began to start, and we've added a PTA and a PTO for preschool, and that's brand new, and we are very excited for that to happen. And just in general, the Pupil Service Department has been excited to partner with Ms. Temple and her department for a lot of different activities that have involved cultural awareness. And an example would be our preschool team had a big presentation with one of our very own teachers who is part of one of the tribes and for Indigenous people. And she did an amazing presentation for our preschoolers. So we have lots of good things like that going on. And I did see, I think there's a couple questions already in there. Teresa, can I answer them if I saw them?
Sure.
Okay. So there was one answer about special education funding for OTs, and I wanted to make sure that I was clear that we have funding for OTs. We have vacant positions we've been unable to fill. So it's not that the funding's not there. It's that those are tough positions for us to fill, and we still have a couple of them that need to be filled in the area of OT. So I wanted to make sure I answered that one. That's the only one I saw, Teresa.
That's the only one I have.
Okay.
All right, well done, Mrs. Borges. Again, populate your questions. At this time, I'm going to call on Dr. Daniels to give a quick overview and then maybe field a few questions.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Sunday. Again, my name is Dr. Fallon Daniels, and I'm the Director of School Leadership and Accountability. And so to give you an overview of the work that happens within my office, I would summarize it as this. If I were in a parent position, I would want my child to be in a space where they're in a classroom and they're able to thrive. The portrait of a graduate work, the vision that has been identified thus far, we want to make sure that our students are experiencing these environments. And so my position is to support with the instructional capacity and making sure that the coaching is there to make sure that these environments actually exist. And so through my work, I've only been here for a few months. And what I've observed is that there's a variety of different student learners within our spaces of various social classifications. And so we are a very diverse community. And so to that end, it is important that we're utilizing different instructional practices and strategies to meet the diverse needs of our students. So the conversations that I generally have are with principals through their school improvement plan to talk through how are we going to support the development of our teachers to ensure that they're able to reach all students, and how do we actually know that students are learning in the classroom. And so we spent a lot of time these last few months focusing primarily on evidence of student learning so that we can improve the quality of instruction. Some schools are focusing on differentiation, others are looking at learning targets. But we are solely focusing on making sure that our students are receiving the best learning environment so that they are successful. The other piece, just before closing out, I do connect with other departments. So I work closely with Mr. Matt Rivers to ensure that we are refining some of the existing systems and collecting data for our staff so that they can make informed decisions tied to instruction, working closely with Ms. Temple as well, and also Ms. Borges, so we can strengthen the work that happens in what we call Tier 1, which is what's happening in the classroom, the first initial interaction with the teacher and the student, and making sure that they receive the best services possible. And so that's a glimpse into what I do, and I'm open to any questions that you might have.
Okay, there is one question from Liz Groundling. When you say differentiation, are we looking at leveling?
So differentiation is very different from leveling. Those are two different things. So differentiation, what we're seeing specifically in the classroom is that when teachers set learning targets and learning outcome for students, they may need different approaches or use different strategies to help students move forward, given the diversity of the learners in the classroom. And so that might look like changing the way in which the student learns the material, but they are still held accountable to that goal. It might look like giving student choice and voice in how they produce evidence of their learning. So we do not level our students. That's a no-no. We want to make sure that we are providing opportunities for teachers to work with students in the classroom, and where students are struggling, we take action. We can respond, whether it be small groups. We decide to do small groups, and we change the way we instruct those students and change it in a way that's meaningful for the student learners. Or if it's going to be, in some of our schools, we're using our reassessment policy to say, let me try to measure your learning in a different way, because I noticed that your strength is possibly in this area. You're more kinesthetic kind of thinker. And so thinking through that. And so our teachers are working through developing those specific areas of differentiation.
Yeah, well said. We'll move on to our next panelist, but leveling as a educational practice is quickly becoming an antiquated practice, okay? And there's so many assets in kids learning in diverse spaces from an aptitude and academic standpoint. So we'll continue to work in that direction. Our teachers are engaging in transformative work right now, and they're diving into it. We just have to make sure we continue to work on this substitute challenge and staffing challenge, but we're on our way. All right. That's a good segue to our next speaker, Ms. Courtney Brown, Director of Human Resources.
Thank you. Hello again. The Human Resources Office has been working to attract and retain exceptional talent. We have expanded our outreach to the national level when advertising for vacant positions. We have already begun this work of increasing our efforts and the outreach to the national level as we were beginning to see the signs of a teacher and staffing shortage. Some of the initiatives we are using now are direct emails to certified staff, postings at colleges and universities, national publications such as EdWeek. We're also trying to promote programs for current students and non-certified staff who may be interested in working in the field of education. Currently, our fill rate for certified staff is 99%, and that includes pending new hires who we hope to have in place within the next 30 days. The certified staff category includes teachers, school psychologists, social workers, and school counselors. We're at about a 94% fill rate for non-certified staff, and that category includes paraprofessionals, custodians, school climate specialists, and tutors. So while we're positively trending in our hiring of permanent staff, Stratford, as with most other districts, has found it challenging to attract and retain substitutes for coverage needs, especially with all of the illness that's been going around. We have expanded our outreach locally in this area as well. And so you may have noticed some of the flyers advertising for substitutes in your weekly newsletter from the district, or the We're Hiring signs at your schools. So again, a little plug, if anyone is interested in subbing, you can visit our website for more information or contact the Human Resources Department.
Okay.
I'm hoping we get a question on this one because we need some help. We need some help. So I just, we really want to emphasize that plug. If you have people in your network as family members who care about kids, who are good with children, we'll support them around the instruction and the lesson plan to the extent possible. But we do need some support. Our teachers are working incredibly hard, and there are certain points where it does become quite challenging, so any help you can provide to us would be incredible. We're going to go to our next speaker. I do want to say, just to maybe kind of set additional context, and we're very transparent in this. If I counted the amount of times that I stood in front of my board of education and I provided, not so good data, it'd be a different conversation. So we're transparent about the not good data, but we're also talking about some of the things that we have done in response to those not good data. Okay. And there's been a tremendous amount of work from top to bottom, from the board to the work our union leaders are leading in conversation, to the crowdsourcing of ideas and the collaborative voices. There's a lot more work to be done. Okay, there's no doubt about that. And our goal is to make sure that Stratford Public Schools is one of the most regionally respected schools, but very proud of what we have accomplished so far. And if we're going to continue to set those targets for where we want to be a year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, then it's going to require everybody. All right. Speaking about everybody and inclusion, we will segue to our next speaker, Ms. Temple.
All right, thank you so much. Again, my name is Yvonne Temple. I'm the Supervisor of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Engagement for the district. I want to preface this by saying equity work is personal and a way of being to all of us on this panel, because we are working to continue to create access, opportunities, and supports for each and every. I say each and every and not all, because we want to make sure we pinpoint that every student that walks in our building needs special supports to be successful when they leave our district. Some of the work that the DEIE department has completed thus far are equity lessons for staff, including teachers, CIAs, and secretaries, recruitment with special attention to increasing our educator diversity. So you may have seen some of us at local events like the Yale versus Howard game, the Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated HBCU College Fair, and so many other places to recruit educators, but also to meet other businesses and organizations to come to our high school career fair that is this spring. So selfless plug, please email me if you know someone or are part of an organization or business that is willing to represent your institution to hold a table at one of our high school or both of our high school career fairs in the spring. So we also provide equitable and inclusive learning experiences by utilizing culturally and linguistically responsive teaching strategies based on Dr. Howley's CLR teaching binder study. So all of our schools will be a part of the CLR binder studies as of January, including all of our administrators at the district level too. We have a bunch of student affinity groups that are actively impacting their school community, and they are looking to expand their reach. So if you have a freshman, please encourage them to join any of the high school groups to be more engaged within their school community. We have developed our employee resource groups that is ran by other staff members. We have 3, the Mosaic BIPOC group, the Men of Stratford Public School, and Rookies and Vets. So there's a place for everyone, right? So we just want to make sure, people continue to come to work and we retain the people that we have, because it's very hard to replace them. So family and community engagement is very big. Heather Borges just talked about it. That is a lot of what my role is. So I am thankful that I was able to work to hire a new family and community engagement specialist, which is Melissa Redding. And we're creating opportunities for our families. And another plug, please reach out to us, because we really need to know what the family's needs are so we can support you and get the resources that you need. So we're really trying to leverage our community partnerships to acquire data from families regarding needs and provide support and resources to them to remove barriers to engagement. So we're talking about making sure our students are attending school. If there's a transportation issue, maybe we need to make phone calls to Greater Bridgeport Transit. Childcare, every place has a waiting list, but we'll do what we can to help you. And last but not least, we are in the process of creating a parent university to address the needs of our secondary families. So please, again, we are looking to engage our families, our communities, to truly change the way we engage our students. Every hand matters, the village matters, and ensuring our students thrive. Okay, so my last thing, for real this time, my call to action. Again, we need our community help. So we know that we have an influx of people who moved in, whether they moved in from another town or city, or they moved in from New York. A lot of New York plates, right? We want to make sure people understand that we are here for them. We want everyone to be successful. So again, we're looking to do that in January. We're looking for all of our Stratford organizations to come together to do this in collaboration with Stratford Care, Citizens Addressing Racial Equity. So please reach out. I think I said that 1,000 times, last but not least. Parent C, 10th cohort in February 2023. So please review their information. Our website is www.stratfordk12.org. Thank you. I can start questions now. Thanks.
There is a question from Robert Giotti. Mr. Giotti has a two-part question. The district has a strong push for DEI. First, what isn't diverse, what isn't equitable, and what isn't inclusive in the schools? Second, how are the schools ensuring, with an emphasis on DEI, that other groups aren't being treated less equitable?
Okay, great question. So our student body is very diverse. There's no doubt about it, right? So we have at least 49 languages spoken in our district. We have about 70% students of color in the district, right? So we are very, very diverse student-wise, but not so much in the staffing, right? We are diverse in the way and in our thoughts and our processes, but what studies show is that all students benefit when they have access to teachers of color. But that is especially true for BIPOC children. So they have better academic performance, improved graduation rates, and more likely to attend college. So our ultimate goal is for everyone to leave our district and thrive, right? So not everyone's going to college, all right, but they still deserve to have someone that looks like them at some point in their educational career with Stratford Public Schools be in front of them, right? And the second part, I pulled it up, let's see. Yes, so about the inclusion and equity. So equity is about each and every child. So no child should be left out of anything. So again, we're about each and every child. So making sure that everyone receive the supports they need to be successful. That's each and every child. So that's what we have to look at. That's how we have to make sure that we do a little bit better at. And that's where you'll see we look at different pedagogies in regards to the CLR, because it's about pedagogy. So the how, not necessarily the what we are teaching, right? So engaging our families. Is there another question?
And I would expand on that as well. Equity work, diversity work, inclusion work is ever going. Okay. And I'll share this with the board, and I'll share this, I think, maybe even in publication with our families. One media outlet, ranked the Stratford Public Schools as the 6th most diverse school in the state of Connecticut, and in the New York metropolitan area, number 18. Okay. And for us at the district, and certainly at the Board of Education, we believe that diversity is an asset. Okay, it's an asset. The world is changing rapidly. And for us, when we talk about one village, one community, we will take care of our own, every child who walks through those doors. As we continue to think about ways to keep kids engaged and develop the capacities, particularly around the POG attributes that we have co-constructed, we need to make sure that kids feel relevant, feel seen, and feel heard. Okay, so this has been ongoing work. We're very fortunate that the Board of Education adopted an equity policy a few years back. So that's kudos to the board. We are putting those things in motion, and right now the Stratford Public Schools and the community of Stratford is benefiting from some of the work that's happening. What I have been pleasantly very impressed with is the commitment of the work of our teachers. You know, I mean, this is potentially also partly vulnerable, right? And that we all have to be vulnerable, and equity work requires some level of vulnerability. As you just heard Ms. Temple speak, you know, about 70%, maybe even 71 to 72% of our kiddos are students of color. Okay, so they're racially diverse. From a skill set and an aptitude standpoint, they are diverse. We know that. From a socioeconomic standpoint, they're diverse. So we must continue to be open-minded as professionals in terms of how we engage our kids and how we make them feel seen and heard once they walk through our doors every day. There was just today, I received an email, which I was able to forward to a few of my colleagues who were on this call, about really what I call a transformational experience. Second Hill Lane, Principal Dan Hicks is just doing amazing work there. And you know, many of you know that Second Hill Lane is one of our biggest schools. The culture there is amazing. And he shared a story that I believe, if he has not yet shared it with his staff, I know he's intending to do so, about a family that joined our district, an international family. Okay, and I'm not going to get into, you know, the specific nationality per se, but a child essentially told a new story about the shift and how she felt seen and included. That was my takeaway as I saw that. And shout out to Principal Hicks. He felt compelled to share that with me and a few of the other leaders. And my response was that this is exactly why we do the work. Okay, this is exactly why we do the work. So this is who we are. You know, we can't run away from it. Okay, and I think you know, in the short time that I've been around and in the conversations that I have with our teachers, we know that sometimes this work is not easy, but they're doing it and they embrace it. They're willing to step outside of comfort zones, and we'll continue to do those things. That's who we are. Okay, we are committed to opening our doors and welcoming in our families. We're committed to providing supports and resources through our networks within the community. And we're committed to making sure that every child fulfills the POG work, okay? I'm gonna segue to our last two speakers, and as I reference our ability to open our doors, you know, our next speaker is our facilities director, Mr. Richard Ruggiero.
Thanks, Dr. Sunday. As he said earlier, it was a crazy busy year starting into the new school year. And on facilities, with all our custodians, our day starts July 1st, even before that. And it's hectic. 2 months seems like a long time to get the schools ready to be open, but it's not. And on top of that, we're also working with the town, who brings and does all kinds of projects during the summer. So everybody works hand in hand. Teachers start to come in. Again, custodians are there helping out the teachers get settled in. So facilities end is nonstop, along with everything that happens in between. So to give you a little idea of what took place this summer, we had 3 new roofs getting put on 3 of our schools. We had boiler replacements, high efficiency boiler replacements the town did. Immediately after roofs are done and completed, we start putting solar panels on to help cut costs on the school. So on the facility side, we are nonstop 24/7. And our team, I can't say enough, is they're capable of handling every aspect of the school. And they keep everybody happy and they keep everything clean and safe. And now we all work with Carlos Castro to find any problems in the school, whether it's a door that's not closing right or a window that's not closing right. And everybody kind of just is hand in hand. And it's kudos to the guys. They just do a fantastic job to get everything completed.
All said. Field some questions if there are any questions in the chat specific to facilities.
There are. Kara Lockhart is asking, has Stratford applied for any of the state grant funding for upgrading the air ventilation in the elementary and middle schools, specifically having air conditioning at both levels?
So for right now, what we we got a grant that we applied for at Flood Middle School for the upgrade of the chillers. Right now, that was the only thing that we were capable of getting and applying for. Don't know if we're going to get it, but that's where we are. We did apply for a grant for the new chillers.
And the last question is, will Bunnell High School and Flood be rebuilt soon to have better air quality?
I can't answer that. I don't know. We just finished the brand new Stratford High, so I can't tell you if and when that's going to happen.
I'll answer that. The easiest way to answer that is that it's not probable for next school year.
Yeah.
Okay. A tremendous amount of credit. I think it's no secret. We've talked about it at the board level. I think you have board members who advocate for upgrades. I know board members specifically encouraged us to apply for the grant. We submitted that, so we'll wait to hear back from the state. But it's no secret that, in all the communities in Connecticut, Stratford has some of the oldest school buildings. Okay. And oftentimes they present a challenge to maintain. I have to give credit to Mr. Ruggiero and his team of custodians. Every time I visit our schools, they're one of the first people that I see. And I also have to give credit to Renee Sarah and Danny Wakeland at the town, who've been very responsive to, anything that Mr. Ruggiero has brought forward to them, Mr. Castro as well. We have some old buildings. Okay, and we're going to continue to advocate. We're going to continue to work, but there's an economic cost to all of these things that have to have deeper and more collaborative conversations, not just in the Board of Education's part, but also with our town leaders. We do have town leaders who are invested in the success of our school district, and we're going to continue to nurture those conversations and nurture those relationships. But it is a work in progress that does not fall short of our thinking. Okay. I saw Mrs. Mangini's hand up. I'm going to ask her to chime in real quick, and then we're going to close with Mr. Rivers.
Absolutely. And it's just to confirm what you had mentioned, Dr. Sunday, that there is a cost involved both with the most recent state funding for HVAC upgrades and any renovations that are considered school construction grants. Stratford right now gets reimbursed a little less than 61%, which sounds great, but that leaves almost 40% for the town to have to factor into their capital budget. So yes, there is a cost involved, and we can't forget, because that's a challenge. But we've been working very well with the town and trying to identify those areas that we would like to move forward with, and the town is working to figure out what they can afford to move forward with as well.
Well said. And to close that out, to use our good friend Mr. Brian Snyder's words, a lot of our buildings are tired. And for us at the board and at the district office, we're just happy that some of those TikTok challenges are behind us. Okay, we're trying to maintain and keep what we have in good condition. So speaking about TikTok and technology, let's tag in with the last discussion point, Mr. Matthew Rivers.
Good evening, everyone. So just to kind of piggyback off of Mr. Ruggiero, the technology department never stops. Technology touches everyone and every building in our district. Just for the interest of time, we'll go really quick through some of the larger things that are happening in the IT department. Recently, we just implemented our Help Me by the company Stop It app. This is a application that can be used by staff, student, and families. It's an anonymous reporting app, not all about bullying or incidences that are not, inappropriate incidences, but If you see a family that is having trouble with food shortage or transportation or any of any concerning incident, you can anonymously tip each school, and those tips go to administration, and we then handle them accordingly. Another good part that's coming down the pike for us is we are finally doing a Chromebook insurance policy for the secondary schools. This will allow us to create devices that are always working to help students when the devices aren't working, to repair them as fast as possible and make sure that students have instruments to learn. And the last, this is kind of a selfless plug for myself, being a gamer, but we're gonna start looking into creating esports teams, and not just clubs. These are going to be teams that are competitive at the high school level. So competing with other CIAC high schools around the states. We have a few more things in the works, but just for the sake of time, and I'll take any questions if there are any.
Okay.
I don't have anything at the moment.
All right, we're not seeing questions, and I appreciate the group staying in it this late. Some really good content, some really good conversations. Again, thank you to our panels for really kind of speaking about some of the work of your department. I think there's some really relevant questions that emerged this evening, so we'll make note of that, and we'll continue to communicate. Just for our participants, just so you know, after this series is over today, or this event is over today, we will pull the questions. And again, those questions will be discussed certainly at the cabinet level, reviewed, and it will certainly inform the work that we do, but also our board members pay attention to all the questions. Okay, so in some way, shape, or form, particularly things that cut across the entire school system, I'm sure it will come up in conversations with the board. This is a very important part. Okay, I'm actually going to segue to one of the last portions of this. I'm also going to invite Ms. Mangini to join me in this piece. But as I mentioned, we are knee deep in budget season. Okay, and this is a very long window of time for all of us. It's a very long window of time for our board members and our finance committee members who spent countless hours really analyzing every dollar and cents to make sure that we are constructing a budget that's going to be responsive to the goals of the district and responsive to the needs of our children, as well as the professional needs of our staff. One of the things that I'm quite intentional about doing is making sure that I have many of your voices in the back of my thinking as I work with my team to construct a budget. So we want to hear from you, okay? What are the relevant items or themes that you think that we should have at the front of our thinking, okay? For example, a few years back, we heard a lot about social emotional well-being and social mental health. We've invested not just in social workers through different strategic funding sources, but also ruler. You heard Ms. Borges speak about that. We'll continue to do those things to also maybe set some context and informal conversations as I talk to professionals and some families. One of the things that I've heard is class sizes. Okay, so we'll continue to work on those things. But just to give you a little bit of context, we want you to get into the chat and things that are important to you and things that you feel through your conversations with your neighbors, your peers, your child's teacher, that myself, as well as the Board of Education, needs to keep at the front of our thinking as we design our budget for fiscal year 24. Go ahead and punch that into the chat feature. We'll take note of that. Mr. Rivers, again, as I continue to set context on this, if you can pull up slide number 6 on that presentation, I want to also maybe share some context. As the Board of Education, we don't have too much flexibility, and I think this is where I'm going to tag Ms. Mangini to speak on, but the vast amount of our budget is anchored and grounded in salary and benefits for our staff. Okay. And then obviously we have other things such as transportation, utilities to make sure our buildings are operational, tuition, particularly for our kids with exceptionalities. But where we do have discretion, we want to hear your thoughts. And if we find a thematic pattern and it's something that we can do, we would certainly want to make sure we embed your voice in our budget construction process. So this is just a quick visual, okay? As you continue to think about this, Ms. Mangini, did I miss anything on that?
No, I think you covered it well. And just to emphasize the fact that there is so little discretionary areas of our budget. As you can see, salaries and benefits alone are over 75% of our budget.
Okay, well said. So let's take a moment and, I'm going to put myself on mute, but just take 30 seconds to think about your child's school, think about our school district and our community. What would you like to see your children experience by way of resources that the Board of Ed should consider for adoption for next academic year? So I'm just going to put a mute populated into the chat. And believe me, when I say we will certainly review all of your submissions. I'm sorry, not the chat, the Q&A section, okay? I apologize if people have been using the chat. I actually cannot see the chat, but I can see the Q&A. So please use that feature. Okay, some really good things that were submitted, okay? Just maybe rattle off a few things, and I think these are all appropriate, and our board will certainly examine some of these proposals. I see a focus on enrichment opportunities for gifted students or advanced students. I'm seeing questions on reading programs. That is actually quite easy to answer. So obviously there's some work going on with the state on that. In the Office of Teaching and Learning, led by Dr. Gaeta and our coordinators, are reviewing programs out there. Obviously there's a financial implication on things. So more to come on that. I'm looking at before childcare, right? Before school childcare. expansion of the dual language program, which is one of our signature programs here at the Stratford Public Schools. So continue to populate this. I did see something about metal detectors. I will say, and we've been talking about this for quite some time, that is not, we are reviewing everything. We continue to review our school safety practices, and God forbid comes a day where we have to, excuse my intonation, but forbid a day comes where we are a district that absolutely requires metal detectors. We're not close to that yet, but that question itself continues to position us to continue to review our processes. So there'll be more to come on that if the conditions warrant that, but we're going to do everything we can to make sure that the conditions, we're not a district that requires that. Okay. Again, we speak loudly and boldly that school safety is everybody's responsibility. We have some other intervention supports that will be used to help shape the conditions in how we treat each other and how we take care of each other, and also lean in on experts at the PD. So I'll leave that there. Additional social workers, continued emphasis on social emotional learning. Thank you for that, Rob. CAT, gifted programs, AP classes, to continue to make sure kids are academically engaged. Ms. Livingston, recruit minority teachers, excellent. So this is exactly why I wanted this exercise to happen in this Q&A feature, okay? Investing in people, greatest resource, class sizes. Thank you for that, Ms. Bedell. Qualified people, absolutely. Value added is an ethos of the board in this district office. Mrs. Marcus, hot lunch, keeping the small class sizes. Yep, class sizes is definitely a theme, okay? And I can tell you, we've been talking about that as a board. We do believe, as a board, that there are greater variables than just the finance piece, okay, that we've been having conversations on. There'll be more to come on that over the next year. So hang with us, but we will certainly do everything we can to focus on class sizes. All right, okay. Listen, I can't thank you enough. It's 7:30. We started at 6, and you all gave up an hour and a half of your Thursday evening. We started with about 75 participants, and most people stay through. Thank you so much. Your voice is critically important in the work that we do. It does take a village to make sure that almost 7,000 of our children feel valued, and they grow as they spend time with us. It takes the village to partner with our hardworking teachers, because I think we have all learned over the most recent years that teaching is probably one of the most challenging, most difficult jobs there is out there. So know our teachers are working, okay? So when you have a moment as a parent, all right, reach out to your teacher, shoot a one-line email and say, thank you for what you're doing for my child. That goes a long way, particularly on the challenging days. And do the same to our administrators, okay? Do the same to our district leaders, do the same to our board leaders. The work of educating in 2022 is not easy. Again, thank you so much for your energy. Thank you for your thoughts. Continue to reach out to us if there's anything we can do to help. We know we have a long way to go, but at the same time, I think as a community, we can all be very explicit about what we've accomplished so far. Okay, so we'll keep taking it day by day. We're hopeful that we bump into you in our travels over the next week. If we do not, please enjoy the holiday season. Be safe. Stay away from the flu. Stay away from COVID. And we'll see you when we return.